How's it going, YouTube? Navy Sooner here. Today, I'm starting a debunking series. We're going to be debunking quotes, tweets, posts, whatever that has to do with gun control or firearms. So if you are a lefty and you don't like guns, you should watch this because you might actually learn something and you might have your mind changed about firearms and gun control. If you're a righty, then show this to your lefty friends, if you have any, that are anti-gun or think that there should be more gun control and don't know shit about firearms. Before we continue on and I show you the first tweet that I'm going to be debunking or just showing that it's completely wrong, we are going to talk about my Patreon and my Subscribestar. I have both of those, and if you would like to see my channel going, it'd be greatly appreciated if you donated to me. If you do not want to do a subscription style service for being able to donate to my channel to help keep it running, then you can send me money through PayPal. My email address that you can use for PayPal to send money directly to me is navysoonerchannel@gmail.com. Some people would like to call this e-begging. Well, to you people, I don't fucking care. Also, go check out Life, Liberty, Pursuit of Happiness website for new t-shirts and new hats. This is a hat that they sent to me, and I really appreciate that. I will be getting other shirts in from them and showing you what they look like. I am not paid, they're just sending me the shirts, and I am a friend of the owner, and I'm just trying to help him out. First up is some garbage that has been spewed by a rat boy known as David Hog. He tweeted on March 21st, 2021, "It should not be easier to buy an AR-15 than it is to vote." Well, I'm going to discuss why it is much harder to buy an AR-15 than to vote already, and he's just a dumbass. Before we go on, I would like to let you know that I really truly believe that innocent people being killed is a tragedy. And when I say tragedy, I mean every single innocent person, not just because of gun violence. I mean people that are killed by drunk drivers every day, people that are ran over in the streets of Nice by trucks, people that are blown up just watching marathons. Those are all tragedies. Anybody that does not deserve to die, which is nobody deserves to die, it's a tragedy. Understand that. Not just people that are killed by guns is tragic. Every innocent life that is lost is tragic. So David believes that voting is harder to do than buying an AR-15. Okay? Well, there are multiple ways to be able to register to vote in the state of Texas where I live. And people want to believe that Texas is very hard to vote in, which is completely false. And people would like to say that Georgia is a hard place to vote. Well, that's completely false because it's not hard to vote in Georgia. Even after all this stuff is passed, it's not. They're just trying to secure voting, and the only reason that someone might say that it's hard to vote in Georgia is because they are just going off of CNN, MSNBC talking points or leftist talking points. It's not hard to vote in Georgia. Well, anyways, in Texas, there are multiple ways to be able to register to vote. You can go online, print something off, fill it out, mail it into the address that it says on the piece of paper. Or you can go online, fill out a form online, and they will mail you the registration form if you don't have a printer. So, I mean, saying that poor people don't have printers, you got right there. Just go online, do that. And everybody has cell phones. You can do that on a cell phone. As well, whenever I went to go get my driver's license renewed, they asked me, "Do you want to be registered to vote?" I said, yes. Guess what happened? I was registered to vote. And then I moved. And I changed my driver's license, and I changed my registration by going online, printing off the piece of paper, filling it out, mailing it in. Then, when it's time to vote, you go to your designated voting place and vote. You stand in line, you walk up, you show them your ID to show them who you are and that you really are the person you say you are. I don't understand why that's such a big deal and why it's so hard to understand that That is not hard to do. Well, show them my card, I go up to the booth, and I follow the instructions, and I vote. Then I walk out. Holy shit, how fucking hard was that? I mean, they even give you the option of up to 2 weeks before the election to go in and early vote. And when you want to go into early vote, you can go to anywhere in the county to do your early voting. What the fuck? Why? That's so hard. Oh my goodness. As well, absentee ballots. In the state of Texas, there are reasons to be able to get an absentee ballot. You can even be in jail and get an absentee ballot to vote. So, you have to have a good reason to be able to get an absentee ballot, and COVID-19 is not a reason to have an absentee ballot. Absentee ballots are not the same thing as mail-in voting. They are more secure. It's a fallacy that absentee voting is mail-in voting. Well, yes, you do mail it. It is not the same thing. Now we're going to go over the steps of purchasing a firearm. What you do is you go to a gun store and you look at what they have on the walls. Oh, look, there's guns on the walls. I would like that gun right there. Or you go online and you look at stores online and you order guns from them. But those guns are not sent directly to your door. They're sent to an FFL. Gun stores are FFLs. There are other people that have applied for FFLs, and they're not just gun stores that are FFLs, but it still has to go to an FFL. You're at the gun store or the FFL, you've picked up your gun that you've purchased online, or you've picked out a gun. What do you do next? You pull out your ID that shows who you are and where you live, and everything must be correct. You give that ID to the FFL. The FFL then makes a copy of the ID, and then you fill out a Form 4473. The Form 4473 asks for your name. You don't have to put your social, but you can if you want to. You do your birth date, where you were born, where you live, and then you answer a bunch of questions. And if you answer those questions incorrectly or you lie anywhere on that sheet, it is a felony. So far, this is getting a lot harder than having to register to vote and go vote. After you've filled out the 4473, the FFL then takes your information and transmits it to the FBI, or they call into the FBI. The FBI then takes the information that is given by the FFL and puts it into the NICS background check system. The NICS system stands for National Instant Background Check System. It's not instant. It's not. It really isn't. It's not. Especially with how many people are purchasing firearms because of the riots and scared of COVID-19 and what's going to happen, especially when our government tries to keep taking our firearms. For some states, the NICS check system is not even enough for them. They want to do their own background check on you, even though it's the FBI. Now, I understand that some people have had stuff fall through, but that's not the problem of the FBI. Like a guy in Texas who shot a bunch of people. He was not legally allowed to have guns, but the Air Force did not send the information to the appropriate authorities to get it onto the NICS background check system. The background check system sometimes takes 5 minutes, sometimes takes 15 minutes. Sometimes I've seen it take an hour. Well, once it's done, 3 things can come back. 1, you're approved. 2, you're denied. Or 3, you get delayed. If someone gets delayed, it's not because they are denied. It is because something came up and something was flagged, and the FBI wants to make sure you are who you are and that you are allowed to own firearms. Sometimes those flags are false flags. It could be just that your name matches somebody else's name and that other person could have done something wrong. Where if someone put their social security number on the 4473 and gave it to the FBI, it might be a little bit easier to get through the check. After someone is delayed, if the FBI does not come back within 3 days, that person can go and pick up their firearm. Some people would like to call this the Charleston Loophole. Well, this loophole is there because it is illegal for the FBI to just sit on a background check and not let you get your firearm. It's called the Constitution, and if they sit on that check and don't do anything with it, they are impeding you from being able to own a firearm. There are people that are wrongfully denied being able to buy firearms. When that happens, you have to go through an appeals process and pay money and wait longer, even though you should be able to own a firearm. As well, some states you have to go through a longer wait after you've passed the background check, just to make sure that you're not going out to do something irrational the second you bought that gun because you wanted that gun to go do something wrong. If a person lives in one of these states where they have to wait longer, even after they've had their background check pass, they're not going to just change their mind in 10 days if they're really going to want to do something wrong. People do bad things even when other things are restrictive. Like I said, Nice. Even in Ohio, there was a guy that drove a truck through a bunch of people and killed them because he couldn't get a firearm. Also, if you're a felon, you cannot buy a gun. But guess what you can do if you are a felon? As long as you have finished your obligation to the courts, you can vote again. In some states, you don't even need an ID to vote. So there's one. Hey, you need an ID to buy a firearm. And House Bill 1, which is passed the House of Representatives, is trying to make it to where you don't need an ID to be able to vote anywhere. So you don't have to prove who you are to be able to pick the leaders of our country, the leaders of our states, the leaders of our cities, counties, our senators, our House of Representatives. You don't need an ID to do that. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. For you to say that people just can't get IDs, you're full of shit. That is a lie. It's not hard to get an ID. Get over it. We discussed that you have to go through a background check to buy a firearm. Don't remember having to go through a background check to register to go vote. Don't remember having to go through a background check to actually vote. You don't have to go through a background check to vote. Another strike against owning an AR-15. It's so much easier to vote than it is to buy an AR-15. In some states, all you have to do is walk to your mailbox, pull your ballot out, fill it out, walk back to your mailbox, put it in your mailbox, and you're done. As long as you've done it on time. Well, I don't remember the last time that I could have a gun just shipped straight to my door. Because you can't have a gun shipped straight to your door. If you are on drugs or you are addicted to drugs, you can go vote. Yeah, you can vote. Guess what you can't do if you're addicted to drugs? You can't buy a gun. Or at least you're not supposed to be able to buy a gun. On the 4473, it asks if you are addicted to drugs or you currently in possession of drugs. Well, guess what? Federally, marijuana is still illegal. So even in those states where it's legal to buy marijuana, you're technically not supposed to be able to purchase a firearm. Mental illness? Guess what? You can vote. Guess what you can't do with certain mental illnesses? Can't own a gun. You can literally be in an insane asylum and still be able to vote. You can literally not know who you are and your best friend be an imaginary purple gorilla that wears a bow tie. Family member. That's the only reason I bring that up. Anyways, they can vote. Another thing that House Bill 1 wants to do is extend early voting to 30 days rather than 2 weeks. Alright, in the system that we already have, you get 2 weeks early voting. You can request an absentee ballot if you have a reason to need an absentee ballot. Some states you don't even need to get off of your sidewalk to get your ballot and to send your ballot back in. So for you to say that buying an AR-15 is easier than voting, you are wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. If you can't figure out within 2 weeks how you're going to get somewhere to vote, that's on you. Because You know when all the voting is supposed to happen. And if you don't know, well, then you're misinformed and you're a part of the problem. The age to vote, 18. A lot of states have made it illegal for 18-year-olds to own an AR-15. So, you can go off and die for your country, and you can pick the president, but they don't think you're adult enough to own a certain firearm until you're 21. No, not cool. Especially people that are trying to argue for 16-year-olds to be able to vote. They are only trying to get more votes for the Democratic Party because those 16-year-olds and those 17-year-olds are being influenced at school by progressive agendas. In some states, you need a license to be able to buy a firearm. And those licenses cost money. Guess what you don't have to do to vote? You don't have to pay for a voting license. In 6 states and in Washington, D.C., you have to go through a gun safety course before you can buy a firearm. Well, they need to put people through courses to see if they know what's going on with actual news, not stuff that certain news outlets put out, but real actual news. Or, as well, news that's not being suppressed. Kind of like a certain computer that was owned by a certain person whose daddy has gone to China with that certain someone and had business deals done on government airplanes, and now daddy is the president. David Hogg, the fake socialist, is spewing lies and misinformation. It is not easier to buy an AR-15 than it is to vote. It is much easier to vote than to purchase an AR-15. Now, David might be talking about the purchase of firearms from person to person without having to go through a background check. Well, guess who went through a background check to purchase their AR-15? The guy that shot up David's school. He went through a background check. He didn't just go buy it from a random person that was putting it up online to sell their own personal property. He went through the legal means of purchasing that AR-15. David, I am so sorry that a traumatic event happened to you. I am so sorry that you had to go through this, and no one should ever have to go through this. But the truth is, people are going to hurt people whether there are firearms or not. And you are spewing false rhetoric to make money. Yes, we know you're a millionaire. We know what your net worth is. So, stop spewing false information just so you can make money. And David, if you would like to debate me on firearms and gun control, I will 100% do it. Because you're wrong and you have no clue what you are talking about. Anyways, David Hogg's an idiot and he doesn't have a clue what he's talking about. Navy Sooner out.